Hey everybody, welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CWU. So we're hoping today, we're going to try something different. We're hoping to be able to bring you Terry Pullinger, our Deputy General Secretary Postal, for a live update on pay. Terry texted me a few hours ago and said he was having a chat with the CEO of Royal Mail Group around now, and I texted him back, and hopefully he can come online and hot off the press deliver you all an update. I know Terry also has been off with COVID as well, and that's hit him hard. So I'm hoping that we can grab him. And but if we can't, then we'll have to try something different a little bit later on. So what you can do whilst we're waiting for Terry, fingers crossed, is share this link, is like the post, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know that you're behind the union's demands on pay and everything else that we're fighting for in the workplace. And we'll share the best of those on screen. And hopefully, oh, hang on a minute. There he is, as if by magic. Terry's popped in, so I'm going to just add him to the stream. Fantastic, mate. There you are. Hello, Terry. I'm sorry, mate. I know I've dropped you in it a little bit there. I've sort of come live without asking you if that was okay, mate. Hope that hasn't. Hope your voice is going to stand up and you're feeling better after COVID, mate. And hopefully, you can give us some news. So over to you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm feeling a lot better, but can break into a cough at any time, so just still sort of get some symptoms there, but no, and absolutely no problem coming on, because I know people want to know what's going on with pay. Of course they do, because everyone's pockets being hurt every single day. Yeah, I've just spoke to the CEO, and at last there's a bit of news, but there's no detail, and I know that the CEO is going to be putting a video out on Workplace, and so I can tell people what to expect with that. The board yesterday have cleared for them to now start negotiating pay with us. So the CEO doesn't do those negotiations. So this is how the structure works. So their negotiating team, I'm saying we must have a meeting next week. And so I'll be pressing for that. The moment I come off of this call, I'll be doing what's necessary to try and make sure that happens. We've got a PE, Postal Executive meeting on Tuesday, planned for Tuesday, in advance of conference. And we'll use that as an opportunity to discuss where we are and how we make sure these pay talks are done speedily, hopefully to a successful conclusion. What people are going to hear, I think, from the CEO is going to be, a long list of reasons or excuses. Let people make their own judgment on that as to why we haven't had an offer. They're still not going to say what the offer is. I think, in effect, it's going to say that they did have a budget, which would include pay and investment in all parts of the business, a complete bit of budget. But then that basically has been torn up as a consequence of the situation as it's increased. Everyone knows about the increase in fuel prices, everything else, the drop off in revenue of the business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there'll be a whole string of that. I hope that our original budget was a decent pay deal for our people that enabled them to keep pace with inflation, protected their standard of living, and that the budget they've had to revamp has put our people right at the top, and that the board and the shareholders are going to be asked to show restraint in that respect, privatise the employees, and also maintain that sense, the community and public service sort of focus that we've had, what we provided all the way through the pandemic, etc. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case, and that we go into a meeting next week and there's something's offered and we're close to a deal right from the start. I'm not sure everyone is going to be particularly confident about that, but this is going to be a test in it of the board, and in effect, it's going to demonstrate what they think of our people. I mean, we're disappointed. I'm hugely disappointed for our members. Hugely empathetic with the fact that they're facing this challenge now, this cost of living crisis. Their bills would have rocketed, their fuel would have rocketed, how they get to work, etc. Everything is being tested for people, and our only way to cope with that is to make sure we've got pay rises and earning potential that ensures our people can protect themselves and their family through this, whilst we still get on with the job of reinventing Royal Mail, which is really important. And I want people to understand that it is absolutely imperative that we keep our discipline. This is about pay. This isn't about our other agreements. We're not in disagreement about them. There's other things we've got to take forward. Obviously, if we're, in difficult talks on pay. Something has to give time-wise. But this is strictly about pay. But we are not going to go for weeks. Chris, I want to emphasise that to all of our members. This ain't going to be one of them that drags for months and months. We will discuss that on the executive on Tuesday, and we will make sure that we are putting forward a framework which ensures in a reasonable period of time, even though it should have been a lot earlier. And don't forget, we wrote to the company in February, about this, because we could see this coming, and we was trying to encourage them to get in front of it. They chose not to. So that means weeks have already been eaten up where we could have had some talks and we could have had something in place to protect our people through this. And of course, reward them for what they've done, unbelievably during the last 12, 24 months. So we could have been into that dialogue early. So they've cut short the time that we would normally consider as reasonable. And as soon as we get that meeting and as soon as we've got any information, as soon as we've got an offer, then I think we'll be in a better place to judge where we are, and also for all our members to judge what the board and what the company think of their employees in terms of the things that I've put forward. But it is imperative we get an offer on the table, and then we can make that judgment, and we will proceed at pace to try and do whatever we have to do, apply whatever pressures we have to make sure we get that concluded in a satisfactory way.
Thanks, Terry. I mean, you've set out like quite a comprehensive update there, as much as information as clearly you've got from the company. I mean, one of the things that's coming through in the comments reflects on the point you majored on there about not letting this drag on. And obviously, we were talking a few weeks ago when we were last together about this month particularly being when people, not just in Royal Mail, but right across the country, would start to feel the cost of living crisis, all the energy bills rising and utility bills rising, etc. What are you, in terms of like what are you feeling, and what is the executive feeling in terms of like the time frame to draw, and emphasize and our Royal Mail in that space as well? A lot of people are asking, I can see on screen now, of recognizing that this has to be brought to the right conclusion, but also a speedy one.
Well, we've got our responsibilities in line with our dispute resolution process, which we know is legally binding. So we've got to honour that. We've got to stay on the right side of the law. There's no sense in panicking here and then get ourselves in a situation where we can't even protest if we wanted to, because we would get taken into court. And previously when we've had that experience, everyone and their dog has told us we should have thought it through and we should have made all the right moves. So we will have to honour our agreement. Once we get to the point, there's a 4-week process in that, Chris, to resolve a national issue. Now, the judgment on that will very much be what happens next week. So if the company are forthcoming next week and there's an offer that's worth exploring and genuinely worth entering into negotiations on, then that's a positive in that sense, But if a meeting don't take place, or what they put on the table is miles away, then if we had to, we would instigate that 4-week period. That's what we got to consider with the executive. So we've obviously got the means. I mean, no one wants to just lurch into an industrial dispute. I know it's very difficult, and I know everything we've been through, but our focus is still to reinvent Royal Mail, protect this great public service, protect our members' employment, standard of living, and secure pension security. That's still, all that stuff is massively important for us. We've got to make the right moves. We've got to keep ourselves legal, because I think we've got a legitimate grievance here, genuinely. Our people are hurting. They're hurting now. And they need some satisfaction, and they shouldn't have to be waiting around for what we would class as a decent pay deal and associated things that can help them cope with this cost of living crisis. So if really at the moment, the ball's in their court, and I mean the executive and me, all the officers and our members, we share the frustration because we've been waiting to get into these talks. I mean, we didn't write in February because we didn't anticipate this needed to be dealt with quickly. But a lot of it will hinge, of course, on what happens if we get that meeting next week and what is said to us. Now, it'd be ridiculous if they don't meet us next week. Now they've been clear to talk to us. But if they do, what they put on the table, the ball's in their court. They need to understand, You know, you don't need the brains of Lloyd George. You can work out where inflation is. You know what's going to be considered reasonable or way off the mark. If they put something that's way off the mark, then, you know, and they're not being serious, then to me, it even threatens the trust and all the things we're trying to do with culture. Because if they're going to try and put an offer on the table, it means they expect in weeks and weeks of talks. That ain't going to happen, because we ain't going to go weeks and weeks.
One of the things, I mean, last question, Terry, and then I'll sum up, because I know you're busy and also know you're not 100% as well, is I've seen, like, there's a number of posts here where members are saying that them and their colleagues are having to use food banks. One of our members just posted saying that a colleague is struggling to be able to put petrol in to get to work, so they're reaching the point of being unable to even get to work. One of the things you, in sort of your leadership, have always been really, really proud of is saying that you want Royal Mail, and Royal Mail should be a company we're proud to work for and proud for our friends and family to recommend our friends and family to work for. The Royal Mail, like any company, isn't going to be untouched. We've got nurses using food banks, we've got construction workers using food banks and stuff. But, you know, should this pressure be on the Royal Mail board to say, look, we're better than this, and we should be paying better than this, and we should be lifting people out of poverty?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a national embarrassment, and it's a national crime, really, that people, you know, like key workers who were so celebrated and applauded and absolutely and rightly so badged as heroes during a pandemic, how quickly people at the top forget. I don't think the rest of society has forgot, but I think people at the top and people in business, they go back to normal, their normal attitude, which puts the people last. So yes, I think Royal Mail board has got a massive responsibility. I mean, the government's got a lot of responsibility. We shouldn't be putting up national insurance and everything else, everything that's affecting not just businesses, but also affecting employees, etc. There's things that they can put in place. But from a Royal Mail perspective, no, Royal Mail should be saying, no, we behave differently from other businesses. And this is a case of reshaping a budget. My belief is the money's there. You have to reshape the budget to put the people first, because they deserve that. They've earned that. There's debts of honour for what they've done, especially through the last 12 months. But there's also that the honour and the trust culture of saying our employees are our most important asset, and we need to protect them as much as we can, not just reward them, but protect them through this cost of living crisis, which is hitting them now. That's why we can't go weeks in talks. People need something now, or if not, they're going to want to vent they're going to want to protest. Let's put it that way, and rightly so. And where does that leave us with trying to, you know, do the other changes we're still committed to, we still want to do? We just had a big policy forum to try and move the industry forward as well. You know, you don't need the brains of Lloyd George to work out that, you know, if people don't feel they're being rewarded or being treated right, they're going to be less enthusiastic to want to, you know, keep with the change program or, you know, engage in that in the way we'd want people to engage. So there's a lot at stake here, but you want my honest opinion? Yes, I think the Royal Mail board should be saying, and shareholders, they should be saying restraint here. They should see that there's huge potential in what we've done in the past year. The amount of change our people did during a pandemic was unprecedented. So we've shown our credibility is in place. We've shown we honoured that, and our people have done it and gone through lots of pain with that. So we're going in the right direction, but it is now for them and their behaviours. That the long-term journey of reinventing Royal Mail for the next generation of postal workers, it is a long-term journey. And every now and again something comes up and, you know, hits you up the chin, I suppose, and circumstances are doing that now. What I think that means is if businesses are serious, it seems to me they're more worried about shareholders than they're worried about their employees. They're more worried about shareholders than they're worried about a public service. They're worried. This would be what I think it would be people's criticism, and it seems to me that if they've tried to revamp their budget in a way to still pacify them people, then I calculate that means we get less than they were going to offer us in their previous budget. So we'll have to wait and see. But if they're going to do it in a different way, if they've adapted themselves because of the problems of our time, and as a business they're playing the long game, then they'll look after our members now. and they will work with us to conclude an agreement, as quickly as we can in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, whatever. We need to get a proper, decent pay rise, which rewards our people, protects them from this cost of living crisis, and then allows us to get on with that really important work of continuing to deploy our pathway to change agreement, which is our future. That's protects our future. But our people need this now. We can't have our people visiting food banks, people struggling to get to work. I mean, this is real, isn't it? This is real what's happening to people. They're going to fill their motor up and it's gone through the roof. They can't. People struggling to put food on the table. These are horrific stories. And of course, everyone in the country, every worker deserves something, deserves to be protected from that sort of misery. But first and foremost for us is our members. And we will protect our members and we will protest if we don't think they're being looked after by the company.
Thanks, Terry. Simon, as you said, the communication on workplaces is gone out from Simon Thompson. I was trying to juggle two balls with one hand and watch a little bit of as you were speaking there. And it's only 4 or 5 minutes or so. And as you say, he's setting out some of the rationale, excuses, however you want to, phrase it. And also saying that, they want to meet with the union and resolve this ASAP. We would encourage all of our members, obviously, to share this video. We're on now with Terry as wide as you possibly can. We'll be getting it out via every channel we have as well. Terry, I'm just going to give you the chance to wrap up any final thoughts before you head off.
Yeah, just to say that what's happened since February, Chris, is to be fair, when we've pushed for the talks with the CEO or the head of HR, director or whatever, it's always been we're waiting for the board. And there's a board meeting next week, and there's a board meeting now. So it's the board that have not been happy to allow the talks to proceed or give them a remit, and that apparently has now happened. But people won't want to hear all the excuses and all the old. We've all known what's been coming. A lot of this has been predictable, and the worst thing about it is, and the board will have to stand on this issue. They didn't hang about in last November, did they? When they gave shareholders the equivalent of £400 million, they didn't hang about because they thought it was all going so well. And yet everyone knew this stuff was on the horizon, that there was the potential of some of this stuff. So I think there's been a distinct lack of foresight by the business. I think it's embarrassing that they've gone shelling out that amount of money if indeed they now plead poverty to us. And I suspect all the issues that you're going to hear about on the CEO's video are going to be reasons that are being put in place to potentially offer us a pay rise, which will be unacceptable. I hope that's not the case. I genuinely do. I hope they really have, they feel so strongly about employees, our members, and how fantastic they've been, that they won't insult them with something like that. That's what I'm genuinely hoping. But yeah, listen, we travel in peace. We carry a big stick, don't we? We won't have liberties taken with our members. And at this moment in time, with everything we've got, all the plans for future investment and everything else, this is just one of those moments when the priority investment is in your own people. The other stuff will follow, and it may be delayed a bit from what you thought where you was going to be before all these things started to hit us. But adjust your plan, look after the people. We will insist on that.
Spot on. Thank you. So Terry, firstly to thank you, mate. I know obviously you've been struggling with COVID and you've ground yourself way through that. So thanks a lot for that, mate. Really do appreciate it. And obviously I also appreciate the fact you jumped straight off the call with the CEO to join us without any sort of notice from myself. I know it was a little bit cheeky. I want to thank the members who have come online. It's brilliant. If you can get it out by your colleagues and share the news. We got Terry's, obviously, as he says, got a post to executive next Tuesday, and we'll try and grab a word or two with him then. And as soon as there's any news from negotiations, we'll be back on and we'll be speaking to you. But what Terry said, back into the workplace, and we thank you all for joining us. Take care, everybody.